Hello, everyone. My name is Padmini Nidumolu, and I'm the co founder of Lean and Agile for women to raise the floor for women across the world and to honor and acknowledge the great work, great stories, and great resilient stories that these incredible women have to offer to our community. As part of this organization, we have an initiative called LIA100, an initiative that is launched to bring stories of 100 among many women that we have in our community, their stories, their challenges, how they survived and thrived, their journeys, and with a hope that um, even if one of their stories inspire any of you, it's still an effort that is worth the effort. So here we are today with our next LIA 100 woman, Uta Kapp from Germany. And she grew up in Namibia. She's right now, in fact, talking to us from Namibia in Africa. But she's originally from, she works out of Germany. She lives in Germany. Thank you so much, Uta, for, coming here and talking to us.
Yeah, hello Padmini. Wonderful.
Thank you for being here. Let me do a quick introduction about you, and we can dive into the conversation. Okay. All right. Uta has been on the digital frontier for more than 30 years. She has tremendous, vast experience. And she, being an expert in software development and agile leadership, she has led many transformations herself. As a software engineer, coach, and trainer, she has supported many companies during their agile transformation. Scrum is one of the pillars of her work. She is very closely associated with scrum.org. And the question that drives her is which special gifts women have to offer to the age of digital transformation. Uta is also a product owner of Diversity Counsel at scrum.org, and she often speaks about how diversity boosts agile teams. She's bilingual. She delivers trainings in German and English. Uta, thank you so much. I have so much to talk to you. I hope this 20-25 minutes will do justice. But let's start with first understanding a little bit about your background. And I know I said that in my introduction. You're a software developer, you're a coach, you're a trainer. We would like to hear from you a little bit about your background and what made you, come into the space of working as an agilist. So a little bit about that, please.
Yes. So I studied actually computer science in the 80s. So I'm for quite a long time in the software business. And I started to be a trainer in the 90s and worked also as a consultant and project manager. And I found that the technology is usually not the problem we have, but to work together well and collaborate, that's the key. And that's how I found Scrum, because the way Scrum packages it, it's amazing. And so I've been in the last 15 years doing nothing else than agile and agile transformation, because that was really what my heart liked. Yes.
No, that's a beautiful way to put it. And one more thing that I mentioned in my introduction is, the question or the thought that drives you is, what are those special gifts that we women have to offer to the age of digital transformation? And there is such huge buzz about digital transformation. And again, there is a huge buzz about how imbalanced gender wise the organizations are, especially as you progress towards leadership layers. So, tell us a little bit about your thoughts on that. What special gifts do we have?
Yes. When I started as a software engineer, I used to be the only woman in the room, mainly. And it always felt like being a woman is like a disability that I had to make up for with being more professional and being better in other areas.
Yeah.
Until I realized that it's actually a gift by itself to be a woman, when I realized that if we look at the feminine side and the masculine side, the Chinese talk of yin and yang, and the feminine side is the yin, and the masculine side is the yang. And man and woman should have both sides in balance. But still, I found that we as women embrace the yin sides more in general than the males or the men, because the men usually like more the yang side, what is to be efficient, to be doing, to achieve, while the yang side is more about chaos, creativity. It's handling situations where it's VUCA, like complex and ambiguous. And I found that naturally women are closer to the yin side.
Yeah.
And in software development, you need both. So I started to suggest a lot of companies, why don't you employ some women for your teams? And they said, you know, Uta, we don't find any.
Yeah. I wanted to actually chat about that because I hear that a lot. And part of the problem could be, you know, first of all, number one, that could be true, right? That might be true. And the other part is maybe the women are not advocating for themselves. Maybe they're not upskilling themselves. Maybe there are some internal barriers or structural barriers which are preventing them from taking the first step, right? That broken rung, if you will, which is the
Yes.
concept now.
Yes.
So,
I found that it's got a lot to do with our culture. I have two daughters, and they are in their 20s now. And although they have a mother that's very much into technology, it took them quite some time to get there. And one of my daughters, she found her way into technology while she was while she was studying in Asia.
hmm,
And I see many more women in Asia in technology.
yeah,
So she's actually a computer scientist now herself, but she started as a psychologist.
yeah, yeah. Chatting about the internal barriers, since you mentioned your experience being the only woman in the room, and of course your two daughters, and you shared about that as well. What do you think are some of the let's start with the internal barriers that women might have, Uta, right? And how can they overcome those barriers?
Yes, the internal barriers of women seem to be different to men. I hooked myself into a training by Claire Summit and Jean Houston, who have studied the cause barriers in women. And it's got a lot to do that women tend to feel I'm not good enough, I'm too much, and they've got like a glass ceiling where
Yeah.
they need to go through. And this glass ceiling has a lot to do with the education and with our backgrounds far back over generations. Our, like in Germany, my generation is the first generation that can create a business. Then the generation of my mother had to ask their husbands. They couldn't even open a bank account. So we have achieved a lot in the last 50 years, but looking at our history, it's not so easy to overcome that, especially since business was created in the industrial age during the last 100 years, and systems like Taylorism and scientific management came in, and it was solely created by men. So it's with a male mindset because the women weren't there.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's so true. And also, when we are talking about some structural barriers or structural gates, this could be the unconscious bias, right? And
Yeah.
or it could be even the lack of possibilities or lack of opportunities for these women to step in, or its lack of HR policies to have certain balance in recruitment and balance in employee base. So, what do you advise that the organizations adopt to 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 course correct this?
The first thing is that women have a value in themselves. It's not necessary to employ women because we need gender equality. It's necessary because we need their skills. And the skills are necessary during the digital age. In the industrial age, where it was important to have a efficient reproduction, it didn't really matter much if that would be done by men or by women. But in the digital age, you have a lot of complexity, chaos, and you want creativity, and you don't just want efficiency. And in having a good mix from men and women, you get a better balance from yin and yang, and you get more options in ideas, in perspectives. You get more perspectives, and you get different stances, and this gives better products. You break up with with the echo chambers, where just one group teaches each other and tells each other the same things.
Yeah.
Obviously, you also can have diversity from different cultures and different people that have different disabilities, but usually it's easier to find women because they are half of the society. So I guess it would be very hard in Europe to, if you would go and try and find people from India or from Africa, it's much easier to find women.
There you go.
So,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah. No, I think you said it well, right? Women by themselves have the potential and the caliber. You don't have to search within that, right? You have to have them, period. Um, so you're also part of the Diversity Council at scrum.org.
Yes.
So tell us a little bit about the council itself, the need for the council, and what do you do as part of that council? So what are the outcomes of that council?
Yes. So what we do at scrum.org is that we highlight what comes out of diversity. We have a very engaged man with a disability called Dave Dame, and he makes us aware a lot what it means to have such different perspectives. And he always has very good examples because he's in a wheelchair, and he said, just think about, you want to go to the movies, and you can't get up the elevator because it's too small, then you have to go home again.
Yeah.
And these are small things that we mainly in software development, but more and more in agile. We also in other areas, and like also facility management and things like that. And it's a perspective that you bring in that nobody that doesn't have this disability would think about it, or think about. We have people that have disability with seeing, that are blind or nearly blind, and created programs to help people do that, the assessments when they're blind.
Yeah.
And so, but it's also a cultural, there are also diversity in cultural aspects. For example, in Europe, there are many people that are not native, they're not native speaking in English, and it's quite hard for them to do a test or an assessment in the English language. So we found ways how to do a translation through tools like Google or other automatic translation tools. So it's got a lot of different aspects. The women aspect, I think, is the hardest, because it's so hard to get women into the software engineering part, because in Scrum.org we focused a lot on software engineering. And so we always would like to motivate women to join us. We've got a lot of women in Scrum.org, but we are far away from 50-50. So
Slow, but it'll get there.
steady.
It'll get there. Yeah. And at Lean and Agile, we have a concept called offer and seek. So we encourage women, groups of women, to come together on a cadence whenever they can, and form a spiral, we call, where you can offer to each other and seek from each other in a psychologically safe space. Because the concept is, when a group of women come together, they're completely equipped and capable of making that whole very strong, right? Because the whole is
Yes.
so much more than some of the parts. Um, when we are talking about that offering to each other, supporting to each other, raising the floor to each other, what are some of your thoughts on that front, right? How
Yes.
can we support each other so, we can have more of women leaders and women in this industry?
Women need each other. It's you can see that, like when we do trainings, we have the students form groups in a way they like, and we don't intervene. And you can see, if you have a few women in the training, they sit together naturally and form a team. And I do a lot of peer training with a colleague of mine. And at some point, I explained to him, don't try to encourage the groups to have one woman in each team, because sometimes it's the tendencies, oh, each team see if they can have a woman. But if you only have, like, if you have 20 people in the room and you have 3 women, obviously then you have one woman sitting in one, or joining one team. And if you only have one woman in the team, you can see that either they are very strong women like you and me, we are used to it, have adapted to the male world, or you have young women that get very muted. But if you have, for example, 3 young women being together in a team with maybe 2 or 3 men, then they get very creative, and everybody has a good time. So I realized that women need each other to enhance this feminine side, because the male side is so dominant that you visually can see how women, especially when they still not so experienced like we are, how they get muted. And they sit there and don't don't talk. They just put on mute.
Very
And
true. I think what you said makes so much sense, right? I think it is important to understand when you need to group women and when not to, right? Because everybody needs a voice and we should be the enablers of that voice. So I think that that judgment of what to do with that groups is so important. Well said.
women amplify each other when they are more than one.
Yeah, absolutely. Women amplify each other when there are more than one. It's a great statement. Awesome. So Uta, as we wrap up, um, what is a message that you can give, to the community? It could be a short one, something that you live by. What would that be?
I think that having women, especially in the software development, gives us a better balance for the digital world, because software is always a mirror of the organization that creates it. And if we have more women, the aspects that women embrace more, like creating a better world or having a looking at the bigger picture and using technology to create better products for the world, and not having technology as a means by itself, then we can create products that make us more successful as a human civilization.
Yeah, yeah, I love that. Software reflects what kind of an organization um, it is produced from. So that tells a lot, right? That's very telling. Thank you for sharing that, Uta. We need more people like you. We need more leaders like you who have, extensive background, uh, you know, decades of experience in software industry and leading into digital transformation, and who has seen that patterns, those broad stroke patterns. So it's very valuable for our community to have somebody like you to be there as an anchor. So thank you so much for being there and being part of organizations like scrum.org and be on their diversity councils, right? Because when you make the right decisions, the right outcomes emerge. Thank you for everything you do. And we hope that you continue your incredible work. Thank you again.